We're back to it, and we're going to get started with our next session, which I'll be participating in, but I'm going to hand it over to Jasmine from Mono Solutions, and you can take it from here.
All right. Thank you. So for those of you guys, you'll stand on the other side, coordinate the logistics, right? So for those of you guys that don't know me, my name is Jasmine de Guzman, and I am the Partner Marketing Manager at Mono. And I'm going to be talking with Charles today about addressing the SMB engagement challenge, and it's actually, our presentation will be based off of a report that we did together with Charles and the LSA called the Engagement Challenge. So we'll kind of walk you guys through that. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of an introduction as to our thoughts behind it as well as a company. But for those of you that don't know Mono, I think most of you have, okay, is it this way, Lynn? Oh, there we go. For those of you guys, hopefully most of you met either myself or my colleague Matt, who's here. But for those of you that don't know Mono, we are a website builder. Yes, I know, the third one on stage during the conference. But our mission is, of course, to drive online success for small businesses. We're based out of Copenhagen, Denmark, which is where I'm based out of, and my colleague Matt is based in the US in Denver. Today, we work with more than 70 different service providers around the world in about 30 different markets. There's been a lot of changes this year at Mono, which is super exciting. We were acquired earlier this year by a German publishing house called Bauer Media Group, which is super exciting because that also means that we are now sister company with Camilio, which I believe quite a few of you guys are also familiar with. On top of that, it's been a super exciting year. We've launched new partnerships with both Vendasta and Web's Planet, so feel free to come chat with us about that later on. And we've also launched our new interface. So that kind of alludes to this whole Do It With Me platform. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. But just to give you guys a quick update on what our whole new interface is about, I'll let Lynn play a quick video for us, and then we'll dive into the actual research, which is the most interesting part.
Meet Mono's new interface, the ultimate do-it-with-me experience for digital service providers and their small business clients. Whether you offer a pure service model or like to have your clients take control, the new interface is built with the user in mind. Mono has always prided itself on production efficiency and precision performance. With the new functionality and UX, building high-quality websites is now up to twice as fast. The interface has also been revamped for the DIY user, making it so even a digital novice can create and manage their online presence quickly and easily. But what's most important about the new interface is that it has laid the foundation for a whole set of new products and features that will be rolling out over 2019. The success of a small business online extends beyond their website, and Mono's commitment to helping SMBs drive business online also goes beyond the website. Mono already offers high-quality native customer management, e-commerce, on-site personalization, and email marketing. But with the new interface, there's even more to come. The first of these game-changing platform additions launches together with the new interface. We're proud to introduce Mono Scheduling, empower small businesses with the ability to manage appointments directly in the Mono platform to help them grow their business. And this is just the beginning. Welcome to a new era of Mono. It's more than just websites. Mono, we drive business.
Jillian?
It's Jillian. Yeah, it's not me. But she's just, so our head of marketing, that's her voice, but she just went on maternity leave. So next year, who knows, will be my voice. You guys will just be really sick and tired of hearing it. But anyway, that's what we've been up to the past year. Obviously, I think the last slide in the video kind of sums it up. We're more than just websites. And there's a lot of other exciting engagement drivers for small businesses that we're bringing to market. But if we dig into why we're actually here. So I think just a quick kind of rewind to last year. How many of you guys were at AsiaCom last year? Let's see a show of hands. And how many of you guys remember Matt and Charles's presentation?
It's okay.
It was super memorable, I know. So last year, we also worked with Charles and the LSA. We're really big on research, obviously, about meeting the new small business SaaS customers. So our goal with that report was really to better understand who is this new small business SaaS buyer. And I think I was just talking with Neil and Charlie right before we got on stage, but a lot of the three main things that we found kind of speak to what Neil was talking about earlier. They're impatient, so this whole immediacy that he was highlighting. They are intelligent, so they're doing a lot more research before they're buying a product. Goes into your kind of transparency. They want to know what's going on with the product they're buying. But most importantly, they're independent. And I think that really alludes to why we kind of worked to relaunch our new interface and give a lot more flexibility. It's because small businesses, especially the younger small businesses, want to take more control of their digital presence, which is awesome. For us, or for all of you guys that are going out and delivering services and digital offerings to small businesses, why wouldn't you want to get the small business more engaged? That's fantastic. But as we thought about it a little bit more, yes, they say they want more control, but what does that actually mean? So before we kind of let Charlie dig into the data, I'm going to give you guys an example. So how many of you have been past our booth and gotten some of the chocolate from the local Vietnamese business? Let's see a show of hands. Matt, you better put up your hand. I know you've been there quite a few times. All right, so about 2 years ago, we decided as a company that our mission is to empower small businesses. So why aren't we doing that ourselves? Why are we going to conferences and bringing you guys like a cap that says Mono on it? Like, you're never going to use it. We know you throw it out when you get home. So what we decided to do was, why don't we support small businesses wherever we go? So this is Yani, and she's the owner and co-founder of Bellevue Chocolates here in Ho Chi Minh City. And we decided to work and partner with her business for this conference. So if you guys haven't tried her chocolate yet, it's amazing. Feel free to go grab some at our booth and bring it home to your family, your kids. So we were working with her. And then the next question is, how do we find her? So we have a wonderful marketing assistant who helps out with all of this. And everywhere we go to conferences, once Lynn posts which city it's in, then I get her on it, and she's researching via Google. And she was researching via Google, and she found Yanni's website. So she has a beautiful website. It's not a Mono website, but she looks like an established business. It looks great. So our marketing assistant comes to me and says, Jasmine, should we reach out to Yanni and try to get chocolates for him? I'm like, that's wonderful. Let's do that. So our marketing assistant reached out via the website to Yanni and asked, hey, we're going to a conference in Ho Chi Minh. We'd like to offer your products. Can we buy some? She sent an email to Yanni via her website or through the form fill, the contact form. And 1 day went by, 2 days went by, 3 days went by. No answer. So it's kind of ironic because, of course, as a technology provider of websites, I'd love to tell you guys all, she's a website, it works, it's helping her drive or get new customers and convert them into, or get new leads and convert them into customers. The reality of it was actually that we got in touch with her via Facebook on day 4. It took about 3 hours and she answered us. She confirmed delivery via WhatsApp, and then one of her staff members delivered in person on Sunday morning. So that's actually the reality. So it's really sad because as a technology provider, you want your technology to help the small business. You want to make it easier for them to get customers. And that made us think, okay, well, what are we doing wrong? And what can we do to get small businesses more engaged in their websites? Obviously, she's doing a good job. She has Facebook, so she has somewhat of a digital presence. She has a good website. And just like Charles was talking about earlier, small businesses are getting more digital, which is great. And they're also getting a lot of great benefits. I think some of the people on the panel highlighted this earlier as well, that it gives them more time. They're getting more ROI, and they're also having more satisfaction, overall satisfaction. But the research that Charles, oh, now the clicker's not working again. But the research that Charles and Neil have been doing with the Modern Commerce Monitor also shows that 62%, so more than half of small businesses, are failing to fully utilize the business software they're purchasing. And so as a technology provider, and as well as all the partners we work with, we wanted to understand and figure out what can we do to help small businesses become more engaged in their software products. How can they make the most out of them? And so that's where we then started to ask the question, why do small businesses fail to fully utilize their business software? And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Charles and let you.
Thank you. So
you want the clicker?
I'm going to drop it. I haven't played catch since I was like 14. Okay. So what we did next was there it goes. Let's look at the data. So I'll tell you what the data is first. So we had two components data components to this report, which again was trying to get at this whole notion of what is the level of engagement that small businesses have with technology, and we're specifically talking about, SaaS-based technology that they purchase in order to, change their lives, make their business lives better. What's the sort of gap between the actual, purchase and the actual usage of the technology, and what impact does that have on things like renewal and the ability to sell additional products and services on top of that? So what we did, our Modern Commerce Monitor tells us a lot about who is buying cloud software, and it tells us a lot about why they're buying it, what they expect to get from it, and from this latest wave, we have some data on what the outcomes are. But what we wanted to also do is sort of ask the industry itself, the people building the software, what their perception is of the challenges that they face getting small businesses to actually use the software that they build for them, and what their perception is as to why some small businesses churn off, because churn is a problem in SaaS. Lack of engagement is certainly a problem in SaaS, and for all the good things that are happening, this is the thing that's sort of pushing against further development of the industry. And websites, anything in that sort of small business tech stack, is affected by this issue. So what we did is we put out a survey. So this is from the actual Modern Commerce Monitor. And what we did is, again, this year we asked, what is your perception, what is your usage like of small business software, and what's your level of engagement, and what's your experience with it after you purchase it. And what we found is that, that she noted the 62% figure, that 62% don't use the full capabilities of the software, which isn't in and of itself completely a problem if, you're using most of the capabilities or the most relevant capabilities, and that's enough for you, that's okay. But 62% is a very high number for not using the full capabilities. So we asked, what's your experience? Used it heavily at first, then usage tapered off over time, or you used it at first a bit and then it grew over time, which is probably a pretty good outcome. But that first, that could indicate, there's an onboarding experience, and then, it's more of a set it and forget it experience, but it probably also indicates that initial rush of enthusiasm and then life sets in. And I can say this as a small business software user myself, I've been through this. I won't name the names of the tools that I've adopted thinking this is going to change my life, and then I get busy and I stop using it and it just sort of sits there. We've all been through this. This is, I think, reflected in that first number. So so I think the industry's challenge is to make that number smaller and to make the second one higher. Certainly use it heavily at first, maintain that level of activity is probably your nirvana, and that's only 7%. So clearly there's an engagement gap here that I think to the degree you can fill this gap, your churn is going to be lower. You're probably going to be able to grow that customer value over time more easily than if they buy it, they're all crazy about it for a month, and then they forget it, they even have it, and then the renewal comes up and they're like, I'm not still paying for this, am I? And that's not a good experience at all. So with that in mind, we thought, let's ask the industry what their perceptions are, as I noted before. So we did this online survey. It wasn't a huge sample, but it was the people who were responding were product people, marketing people, senior leadership at SMB SaaS companies. We surveyed our LSA list of those companies, and so this is a knowledgeable respondent base here. And so we just asked a limited set of questions, as noted, about the engagement challenge. So we really wanted to know, from your perspective, why aren't your customers using your product? You should know the answer to this. And this one kind of jumps out at you a little bit. The reason they're not engaged, they're just not using the product. So what are the key factors in decision to cancel or not renew? Not using the product, 56%. So the experience I've had with a few tools I've used with all the best expectations, repeated over and over and over again, and this is clearly a big challenge for a lot of companies. So, these others are interesting, failure to set expectations, you don't really know what it's supposed to do or whatever. Cost, significant, but I think less significant than the top one. Lost a competitor really isn't the problem. it's probably, it's not someone stealing the customer from you, it's you losing the customer through lack of engagement. It seems to be the biggest cause. These others are sort of less compelling. So then we asked, and this, I alluded to this a little bit in the previous session, where sort of the last question in our panel, where we asked, what is your perception of the cycle, the engagement cycle? That, in other words, how quickly do you need to get your hooks into that customer before they're a churn risk? I found this distribution of this pretty interesting. One day is almost 20%, and my personal view is that it's way closer to that number. 1 day plus 1 week is about 30%. 1 year, 10%. I don't know who those people are, to be honest with you. I think you have way less than a year to get to establish engagement before it's a churn risk. 1 month, that's maybe reasonable depending on the product. Some products are more complex. There's maybe a longer process to learn how to use it. So maybe that's fair for some products and services. But I think that 1 day, 1 week is probably, in reality, where the industry is right now. You really need to establish that usage at some level, and it might just be adding some data or just doing helping build a profile or something, where you do something and you feel and you get some result from it. If that's not happening very quickly, then I think churn risk goes way up. Okay, so then we ask, okay, so what do you do, or what methods do you use to make engagement better, to increase engagement? So investing in onboarding training, that was the number one. So that seems to be like creating a better customer experience, better onboarding experience, seems to be high on the list there. The rest are sort of bunched all together. But I think it's more interesting to look at the ones at the bottom. Reducing price, no one really thinks it's a price issue. Automation doesn't seem to rise too high on the list either. The idea of creating more automation is going to drive engagement doesn't seem to be, at least at this point, high on people's lists. So it's really more about simplification and better customer experience seems to be more at the top of the list of things people are doing to try to make engagement better. Okay, so so these are the things previously, that's the toolkit. What things are you doing? And what is your perception of what the things that actually work? And these are pretty tightly grouped, but again, price is at the bottom. Automation is at the bottom. Sending reports is at the bottom. Free trials, interesting because of the data we showed earlier about the importance of free trials. But the things that sort of rise to the top are, again, around simplification and customer experience. And those things seem to move the needle a little bit more than cutting the price or investing in chatbots and so on. Anyway, so that's just a quick rundown of what we discovered from the survey. There's a little more granularity in the report and some comments and some things like that. But I think it's really about engagement is about small businesses don't have a lot of time, and products are not. I think there's maybe a gap between the perception that people developing software have about the ease of use of their product and the perception of the small business about the ease of use of these products, and I think there's a bit of a gap there. But it's about simplification and customer experience more than anything. So are we going to some case studies here?
Yeah, so
Okay.
exactly. I'll take the clicker back. So what we went back to our partners with was how can we better engage their SMB clients in their digital presence? And so what I tried to do is just give you guys 2 quick examples of different ways that our partners are trying to better engage their small business customers. And the first one is actually covered in the report. We work with a company called ThriveHive, and they've pursued a product qualified lead, actually similar to
We heard about a little bit from...
Exactly, I was going to say similar to what Vendasta launched yesterday with their product-led growth as well. And so what they're doing, and you guys can go in, I really encourage you to read the report. There's a great kind of interview with Perry Evans. But what they're doing is they're using an app with Google My Business Listings and kind of using that as a segue to kind of get them in. And when they're engaging, and you can actually see that they're engaging, they're classified as a hot lead, and they're reached out to by their sales reps, which they're actually calling more marketing consultants, who are giving them digital marketing advice. I think it ties in a little bit to what Elise and Fabian also were talking about. It's more about this educational and consultative aspect, and taking that approach when you're approaching and trying to get your SMBs engaged, rather than just trying to sell them something. And I think that segues in really nicely to the next example that I have, which is one of our partners in Europe called FCR Media Marketing Services. They're based out of Belgium. And they are selling both our website product as well as our scheduling that we launched earlier this year. And they've invested really heavily, again, in this educational and onboarding process. So they've put together 2 very comprehensive academies, one just for the website customers and another one for the scheduling product. And they're not only making sure that this is something that's available to the customers, but they're feeding it to them after they've bought the product through drip email campaigns. On top of that, they're also using service as a way to differentiate product tiers. So again, kind of trying to drive that engagement with the customers that they think are relevant. If they know that it's a high-value customer, they're obviously going to try to sell them a higher service tier level to get them engaged or more engaged in the product. Some other examples as well are, I think Charles was talking about simplification of the product. Something that we've invested heavily in and that our partners have been thrilled about in our new interface is that we've made user roles a very key feature and functionality. So the fact that you guys, we're the technology provider, but you guys know your small business customers best. You know what they can and can't do, what they need help with. So the fact that you're able to configure the user role so that maybe Mr. Hairdresser has no clue what they're doing. So you limit the functionality. But as he grows and gets more comfortable with the product and engages with it over time, you can unlock so that he gets a more advanced user role. And that makes it a little bit less scary and then creates a more simplified product without actually compromising on the feature set. Another really popular thing that we see is that a lot of our partners are looking at a DIY kind of customer acquisition model, bringing them in through a DIY channel, and then again looking at the engagement. Hey, Mr. Painter, you started your website, but you haven't completed it. Would you like to purchase our extended service level, which will help you actually get your website finished and published. And last but not least, it's not only about acquisition, it's also about retention. So a lot of our partners are also looking at what kind of a service model can they have to ensure retention of their existing customers. But ultimately, it's all about bridging the gap between technology and the small business, and about engaging with them at the right time with the right service level, and really helping them understand what the product can do for them. And I think that's why we've kind of relaunched with this message that we truly believe that a do-it-with-me approach, and I think this is actually a quote from the report from Perry Evans, which really speaks to what we believe in, is that as an industry, we're all looking for efficiencies, and as a technology provider, that's what we're really good at providing to you guys. But that aspect of human service, I was talking with someone about it over lunch as well, that you have the local language, you have the local culture, and then that you have this human aspect and element of service, that makes all the difference in ensuring that the small business wants to get engaged with their product and that they're actually successful with it. And with that was kind of it for me. If you guys want to have the report, we'll post a link to it in the app, so you guys can download it there. You can also download it on our website, as well as the report that Charles and Matt presented last year, if you missed that. And then, of course, you can stop by our booth to find out more. Get the chocolate. I didn't put that on here because I figure you guys would all remember that.
Yeah, let me just add a comment. I mean, we had some data that, which is a time we didn't share, also from the Modern Commerce Monitor, and I think after that 62% number of, not fully engaged with the product, then we had a follow-on question about what would it take to increase your engagement. And the number one answer, it's 70, I think, don't hold me to it, 79% I think said product simplification. And then
Let's see, should we go back to it?
did we even have that in there?
That's probably in the Modern Commerce Monitors. We probably don't have that.
Yeah, I'm not sure we included that, just to reinforce that point. And reinforce another point about service, there's a lot of examples of SaaS companies that may have 0 salespeople. FreshBooks is a really good example, accounting software company. I think they have 0 salespeople, if I'm not mistaken. But they have a really sort of a rabidly intense focus on customer support and service. And I think everybody, including software people, developers are cross-trained in customer support. And everyone has to sort of spend time doing customer support no matter what their role in the company. And it's sort of this notion of, you may think you can't afford service, but what you really can't afford is to not invest in service. So I think in terms of this whole context, that can't be underestimated. So just adding that point. I guess we have a couple minutes for questions if anyone has one. Otherwise, okay. Cool.
Otherwise, if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out via
Thank
email.
you.